You know, I originally auditioned to be you.
You made this joke a long time ago.
Did I?
Yeah, I edited that video.
It's better now, though.
It's not better. We're gonna watch today from ScreenRant Marvel actors who audition for other MCU roles. Now, before we hop into this, I just wanted to say this wallet I've been using has just been falling apart.
Okay.
John, what I'm trying to say is thank you to Ridge for sponsoring this video.
Oh, why didn't you just say that?
It's called a natural segue, dude.
It didn't feel natural.
Okay, then you have something that feels more natural?
Yeah, I do. I've been rocking mine for about a year now, and my pockets haven't had a problem since.
Yeah? Well, they sent me over this titanium matte black wallet, and it's way better than my last wallet. You gonna clean that up? Goodbye to that wallet, because these wallets are super light and durable. They hold up to 12 cards and come with your choice of strap or money clip for your cash.
There are more than 30 colors and designs to choose from, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium.
And they're all made with RFID blocking technology to keep your cards safe.
The wallet is efficient, cuts down on bulk, and fits just about anywhere.
You know who would love receiving one of these Ridge wallets, which has over 30,000 5-star reviews?
Who?
Your dad.
Now that's a segue.
With Father's Day coming up, Ridge is offering a special discount sale where you can get 10% off, free worldwide shipping and returns, by the way. All you have to do is go to ridge.com/rejectnation. Again, that's ridge.com/rejectnation. One more time.
Ridge.com/rejectnation. I think they get it.
Yeah, but do they know the code?
I'm assuming it's
Reject Nation, that's the code. He was gonna get it wrong. Link in description box, peeps, and surprise your dad or treat yourself with one of these Ridge wallets today.
At this point, it's almost like every single big name actor in Hollywood is linked to a specific comic book superhero or villain in the movie.
Keanu Reeves.
The luckiest of them land a role in the MCU, which for all intents and purposes is the king of the hill when it comes to superhero movies. Certain actors were lucky enough to land the role of a lifetime, while others had to deal with getting told no and probably venturing over to DC or something. Then there's a small group of actors
Shots
who auditioned for a
taken.
role in the MCU and got it, only not the role they were auditioning for.
I went through a phase of just doing self-tapes after self-tapes after self-tapes.
Yeah, that's right. The MCU
He auditioned
as
for
we
Thor.
know and love it today could have been very different if Disney had made
I
some
know they
different casting
auditioned.
choices.
I know
A lot of
Loki
actors
auditioned
you're
for Thor.
familiar with seeing in Marvel movies now actually tried out to play a different role. Can you imagine what things would have been like if Chadwick Boseman was someone other than T'Challa? Or if another one of the
I heard,
Avengers
Chris
played the
Evans
part of
auditioned
Captain
for Black
America?
Panther.
Strap in, because we're
He
about
would've
to go
gotten
over
cast,
a
too.
slew of different Marvel
woke
actors
culture.
who tried out for different roles. Chris Pratt as Captain America. It's tough to imagine now because everyone knows Chris Evans is Captain America and Chris Pratt is Star-Lord, but those weren't the original plans. Pratt originally auditioned for the role of Captain America several years before he landed the role of Peter Quill. Again, this was a while before Guardians of the Galaxy eventually came to fruition, while Pratt was still just getting started on Parks and Recreation. He had yet to appear in any dramatic roles either, such as Moneyball or Zero Dark 30. He didn't land the part, but he made enough of an impression to remain on the mind of the casting director.
That's
Sarah
all that
Finn,
matters
who
when you're
recommended
acting.
him to Guardians director James Gunn for the part of Star-Lord.
Oh, interesting.
It's a good thing that things worked out this way, because Pratt's hilarious personality went way better with the Peter Quill character, and Chris Evans's clean-cut, wholesome image paired perfectly with America's hero, Steve Rogers.
America's ass.
Chadwick Boseman as Drax the Destroyer.
Really?
Would altered the character a little bit, wouldn't
Oh.
it? We all know Chadwick Boseman is the
What?
child of the Black
I
Panther,
can't
but
see that
did
at
you
all.
know that he actually originally auditioned for a different role?
What?
He first tried out for the part of Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
Of course,
how
the role
weird.
ended up going to Dave Bautista, who's done a wonderful job with the character. Boseman is a great actor, and I'm not so sure his style would have meshed
No.
well with the silly, borderline comedic tone of the Guardians movie and the Drax character.
I want to see that audition tape.
Boseman was probably upset when he didn't get the part, seeing as he was just coming off a leading role in 42 as Jackie Robinson's. Ultimately, it all worked out for the best. He didn't get to play Drax, but he ended up in the MCU regardless.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a
only
much
with
better role for
leading
him.
role in a massive blockbuster movie. We can't help but wonder what the Drax character would have been like if Boseman got the part. It would certainly be weird, but nowhere near as weird if Dave Bautista played T'Challa. Lupita Nyong'o as Nebula. While on the subject of
I
Black
could see
Panther
that.
actors who almost played other parts, did you know that Lupita Nyong'o originally auditioned for the role of Nebula? Sheesh, that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie would have
Gamora's
been
black.
way different.
So
That's
what
right, Nyong'o originally tried joining the Marvel Universe much sooner than her debut in Black Panther as Nakia. She had just finished her future Oscar-winning
matters,
role
all
in
that
12
makeup.
Years a Slave and was looking
that's
for
what the
her
joke
next
was.
project. Ultimately, she didn't get the part, as it went to Karen Gillan. But that worked out for all parties, because Nyong'o was one of the highlights of Black Panther. Karen Gillan as Sharon Carter. Speaking of Nebula, that's not even the role that Karen Gillan originally auditioned
You
for.
got a much
Her
better
first
role,
attempt at
man.
joining the MCU was as Sharon Carter
Fascinating.
in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. She had met with Marvel and auditioned to be the Captain's new love interest. At
Really?
the time, she was wrapping up her time on Doctor Who as the character Amy Pond. Ultimately, Gillan didn't get the part, as it went to Emily Van Camp
she
instead.
kind of
In
looks like
hindsight,
Emily Van
that
Camp.
worked out better for Karen Gillan. Also, what's the deal with Marvel's casting process? Karen Gillan wanted to play Sharon Carter, but instead they gave her Nebula. Lupita Nyong'o wanted to play Nebula, so instead they gave her Nakia? Is it just a never-ending process of moving someone over to the next available role? Tom Hiddleston as Thor.
Yeah.
This one is probably
There's like
the
audition
most awkward
footage.
one to think about on the whole list. Tom Hiddleston is famous for playing the role of Loki, Thor's mischievous and sometimes downright evil little brother. He plays such an iconic role, it's almost uncomfortable to think about Hiddleston playing the part of Thor.
Uncomfortable.
That is most certainly what almost happened though. When Hiddleston went in for his audition for the movie, he was trying out for the lead role. Marvel did some screen tests with him and even had him sport blonde hair and hold the famous hammer Mjolnir. Of course, they eventually went with Chris Hemsworth for the role, but Hiddleston left such a lasting impression that they brought him aboard as Loki instead. He's since proven to be a fan favorite and one of the most integral parts of the MCU. Sebastian Stan as Captain America.
I remember that.
This is another one that just feels icky to visualize. We all know
What
and
is
love
with these,
Sebastian
like,
Stan
weird
as Bucky
adjectives?
Barnes, the Winter Soldier. He's Captain
Just
America's
repulsive
best friend.
thinking.
Things would have been vastly different if he was Captain America. When it came time to audition for Captain
Dastardly
America, the
way
First
of
Avenger,
viewing
Stan
this.
wanted the role.
Pervert.
Casting director Sarah Finn felt that he was bringing too much darkness to the delivery that just wasn't right for the role of the Cap. Still, she was impressed by what she saw and suggested Stan play the role of Bucky Barnes in their next Captain America installment. And the rest was history.
I mean,
in
the
fact,
first
with
Captain
Bucky
America,
Barnes set to appear
there's
in the
Bucky
upcoming
Barnes.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier show on Disney Plus, Stan's character will actually be spending a longer time in the MCU than Captain America.
Yeah, that's a
This
fair
also
point.
just goes to show how important and useful it is that Marvel plans out their movies so far in advance. This way, they can keep an eye on potential talent for future roles that aren't even being casted for yet. Anthony Mackie as Mandarin.
Oh,
Speaking
what?
of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the role of Sam Wilson has been famously portrayed by Anthony Mackie. While the character isn't one of the original Avengers and doesn't have his own standalone movie to speak of, he's still one of the most important characters
he's
in
part
the
of
MCU.
Falcon and Winter
He's certainly
Soldier
one of the
now.
most important heroes, but did you know that Anthony Mackie originally intended on playing a bad guy? His first audition happened prior to being cast as Falcon.
I love
when he
this
screen
narrator.
tested for the role of the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. The role would ultimately go to Ben Kingsley, which really makes me wonder what the casting call looked like.
Yeah,
The answer
yeah,
to
it's a
that
good
role
question.
almost went to someone entirely different as well. While Anthony Mackie was auditioning to play the Mandarin, it was Michael B. Jordan who was auditioning to play the Falcon. Fortunately, he wouldn't get the part and would go on to join the MCU as
that
the
next on the
iconic
list?
role Eric Killmonger in Black Panther. While Michael B. Jordan probably would have been great in the role of Falcon as well, it was probably for the best. In fact, that wasn't
Definitely
even
for the
Jordan's
best.
first time appearing in the Marvel Universe. In 2015, he played the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four, a movie that was a historical failure. While it was a Marvel movie, it didn't exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we know today. And it's a good thing people barely remember that Fantastic Four movie.
I don't think they barely remember.
Sam
what they
Rockwell
remember.
as Iron Man. Look, Sam Rockwell is
Really?
a fantastic actor. He's funny, he's talented, and
I
he
think I may have
always
heard
delivers in any role he plays.
I could
Having
see
said
a
that,
weird
there's
version
just
of that,
no
yeah.
conceivable way that he'd have been as perfect for the role as Tony Stark as
Inconceivable.
Robert Downey Jr. was.
Wallace
It's just
Shawn
not possible.
should've been Iron Man.
RDJ was just perfect for the role. Had Rockwell been the lead role and been the one to kickstart the MCU way back in 2008, there's just no telling where the franchise
I could
would
see
be
him
today.
being more
Jon Favreau
slimy,
liked Tony
snarky,
Stark and ended
starky.
up using him as Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2. The role of Justin Hammer was meant to be a Tony Stark wannabe, with a very similar attitude, only, you know, bad. Who wanted to be Star-Lord?
Jimon
This is an
Hansu.
interesting one, because there were several big-name actors in the running to play Star-Lord before the part went to Chris Pratt. In fact, 3 of the actors
Wasn't
they were
it
considering ended up
John
in the
Krasinski?
MCU playing different roles.
Never mind.
First off, Lee Pace auditioned to play Peter
Oh.
Quill. Instead, he ended up getting cast in the
Ronan.
movie only to play the film's antagonist, Ronan the Accuser. Imagine going into audition for a part and end up being cast as the character's opposition. Funny how things work out, isn't it? Pace wasn't the only Marvel actor to try out for the role, as Michael Rosenbaum also auditioned. Rosenbaum is a close personal friend of Guardians of the Galaxy director
he in the
James Gunn,
MCU?
so he had a leg up on the competition. Of course, the role would eventually go
Not
to Chris
to my
Pratt, but Gunn
knowledge.
still found a way to utilize his buddy, casting him to play Martinex in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Zachary Levi was another actor who tried out for the role of Star-Lord. He didn't get the part, but he was eventually cast to replace Josh Dallas in the role of Fandral in 2013's
Thor: The Dark World.
Thor: The Dark World. Levi would go on to get his lead role in a superhero movie starring in 2019 Shazam. Other actors who were seriously considered for the role of Peter Quill included Joel Edgerton, Jim Sturgis, Jack Hudson, and Eddie Redmayne. All that to say, good for Chris Pratt.
I can't imagine anyone
Jake
else doing
Gyllenhaal
Star-Lord.
as Doctor Strange. Jake Gyllenhaal has wanted to be a part of the MCU for quite some time, and it makes sense. He's a bona fide A-list
Him as
actor
Doctor
with some
Strange?
serious acting chops. Why shouldn't he land a prominent role
Ah,
in the
Mysterio's
largest
more
movie
his game.
franchise of all time? Seemingly every big-name celebrity under the sun plays a corresponding superhero. It almost didn't make sense that likable, popular, good guy Jake Gyllenhaal didn't have one. According to reports, he was very close to playing the role of Doctor Strange.
Oh, these are all like
that
his-
part would eventually go to Benedict Cumberbatch.
None
who
of the
did an
darker roles that we're
absolutely
looking at.
Wonderful job. Gyllenhaal is a great actor,
There we go.
but
There
there's
it
no
is.
telling if and how he could have topped Cumberbatch's masterful performance. And don't feel too bad for Jakey Boy either. He ended up getting his MCU part portraying the role of Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Jakey
Whether or
boy.
not we'll see him in that role on the big screen again is still up in the air. It's crazy to think how drastically different the MCU could have been with just a couple different casting choices. We're glad things worked out the way they did, though. Which one of these entries do you wish actually happened? Would you have liked to see
None.
Chris Pratt as Captain America?
I'm totally
or Michael
cool
B.
with the way
Jordan
things
as
turned out.
Falcon? Let us know which one you'd be most curious to check out in the comments section below.
Easily, Chadwick Boseman is Drax.
Or the-
None of them compared to the strangest that was that one.
I mean, I'd take an Anthony Mackie Mandarin. An Anthony
That's
Macdarin.
I mean, it's pretty weird, sure.
Yeah. Although it would be more fun to see Chadwick Drax.
Yeah.
Draxwick Boseman.
I think Marvel does such a perfect job with who they usually put in the roles that it's very difficult for me to imagine them as other people. It's like I could see an audition tape in mind for a lot of them, like Sam Rockwell as Tony Stark. I mean, to answer the question, no, I don't think any of them would be better in any of these roles per se. Like Lupita Nyong'o as Nebula, I could see a version of that where that really works, because Nebula was a character that I didn't really care for till way later. Like it took me a while, not even by Guardians Volume 2. It wasn't until like Endgame, if anything, or Infinity War that where I was like, yeah, I really like Nebula now. I could see Lupita Nyong'o doing that, especially working off of Zoe Saldana. That could work. Karen Gillan really lucked out though with getting Nebula instead of Sharon Carter, because the Sharon Carter character is not really all that popular. You gotta like be people who are like really invested in the MCU to remember who Sharon Carter is, I think. And yeah, I mean the Sharon Carter character just kind of seemed to be like a weird thing by the time they get to that kiss scene in Civil War. I know in the comics they do strike up a romance, but at the same time the way how it just kind of gets there in the movie, you're like, it's a little strange. But yeah, the Sharon Carter character is nowhere near as memorable as the Nebula character, to put it lightly. And also Lupita Nyong'o's character in Black Panther, it's only been one movie, so I think by the time we get like Black Panther 2 or whatever whenever crossover comes up. Should probably be more memorable then.
Well, and one thing this really clued me into is how sharp and succinct their casting is, because what this kind of showed was you have a lot of these people who are similar types or who kind of can fill similar shoes, but these characters have such specificity. A few shades different makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like Chris Pratt and Chris Evans, you know, like I could see why they both would be held up for Captain America. The personality, that extra trait of, you know, everyman upstandingness that Chris Evans has, you really, I think, have to give it to Kevin Feige and the whole casting crew.
Yeah.
Because they find the people with the right amount of weight, the right personality to match with these characters. And yeah, it's fascinating to see the ones where you're like, Sam Rockwell, that could work, but it would be just different enough that I don't think the MCU would be what it is if it was him.
I mean, the Captain America auditioning is funny to me because Chris Evans was courted so many times. He kept refusing the role. They're like auditioning people in between, but it just seems like what they really wanted was Chris Evans just to say yes. Chris Pratt, I could see him doing it, but it wouldn't be perfect. Sebastian Stan, I love the comment here about how he was just delivering it too dark. Yeah,
totally see
but I'm like, it's Sebastian Stan. Look at it. Everything about him, there's a darkness behind his eyes. Yeah, he's got a natural darkness about him, so I could see why that could be a bit of an off-putting thing. Because even when he appears in Captain America: The First Avenger, just Sebastian Stan, the way he looks, there is darkness there.
He shows up and is darkness.
It's pretty much it, yeah. But Chadwick Boseman as Drax, I'd love to see that version. Because the thing is, I keep imagining body type. Like, Drax, I always imagine as a big, bulky character, where Chadwick Boseman, while he, like, bulked up for Black Panther, it's still nowhere near, like, the Dave Bautista level of bulkiness.
Still much taller than he is wide.
Yeah. And I feel like he can do comedy, Chadwick Boseman. Black Panther is such a serious role that it's hard to envision the comedic sensibilities, but, you know, he gets a little bit loose and get on up. You know, he's playing James Brown in that movie, so he gets a little bit loose. You're gonna play James Brown, you gotta be willing to goof off a little bit. Tom Hiddleston is Thor. I think that he got very lucky because as beloved as Thor is now, he didn't really start receiving that love until Ragnarok.
Yeah.
People liked him, I think, but the Chris Hemsworth that we love as Thor didn't kick in till Ragnarok time.
Whereas Loki's been holding it down.
Yeah,
you know, before the first Avengers.
Even in Thor: The Dark World, people were like, Loki's
Poor
still
Loki.
great though. Loki's great, you know?
It's like there's a reason Loki's getting his own show now,
Yeah.
even though he's been dead and everything in between. You know,
I mean, Michael B. Jordan as Falcon.
I can see it. It's one of those where it just doesn't seem quite as succinct. And I do like Anthony Mackie a lot. I like him in the role. I like his chemistry with Chris Evans. I feel like Falcon is a role out of all of these that you could maybe go different with, and it wouldn't change the entire foundation of the character. But I do think Michael B. Jordan is kind of similar to Sebastian Stan as Cap in that scenario. To me, I'm like, there's something a little bit more menacing than Anthony Mackie.
Well, I think Michael B. Jordan's got a much more of a dark edge. Like, Anthony Mackie's great in hardcore dramas. The first movie I ever saw him, it was actually 8 Mile. So,
right.
So Anthony Mackie can definitely do like gravitas and like a lot of depth, but he also has a lot of comedy in his background, and I think that goes really well to serve the Falcon character. Same time, it's like I wouldn't want to see Anthony Mackie as Killmonger. I feel like he could probably do it, but Michael B. Jordan edges him out, and I would say the same for Falcon. Like, Michael B. Jordan is edged out by Anthony Mackie, even though I think Michael B. Jordan could pull it off.
Nah, Terrence Howard should play both of them.
Yeah.
Bring him back.
And Jake Gyllenhaal as Doctor Strange. Weirdly, out of all of these, I mean, other than like Chadwick Boseman as Drax and Anthony Mackie as Mandarin, the hardest one for me to imagine is Jake Gyllenhaal as Doctor Strange. It seems like something on paper that should just click in my brain, but Benedict Cumberbatch is just so perfect and so specific of a portrayal because he's not behaving like Benedict Cumberbatch. You know, he's got a very specific way of delivering his lines and the voice that he does and the body language, the specific portrayal that Benedict Cumberbatch nailed down. I have a hard time imagining Jake Gyllenhaal because Jake Gyllenhaal wouldn't just show up and be Jake Gyllenhaal. He'd do something very specific.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's that specificity that Jake Gyllenhaal would do?
Whatever he brings would be very unique and very engaging, I'm sure. But yeah, it's another one. I can almost see it, but it doesn't click because Benedict Cumberbatch just has that kind of surge. He has that sort of affluent quality to him.
He has that
whereas,
like hyper intelligent quality about him.
yeah, it's just natural to his face and build. Whereas Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is just, again, you see him, and I think he could play somebody. Obviously, Mysterio is pretty brilliant in the mind, but I feel like he could play a Doctor Strange type. But I feel like there would be more Tony Stark in it than needs to be, because they're similar characters. But yeah, I don't know. Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, would need to be older for me before he could do that.
Yeah. Well, I think it also boils down to the relation, even though it's not the biggest deal out of the movie. He's got a past love relationship with Christine in Doctor Strange, Rachel McAdams' character. And I feel like with Jake Gyllenhaal and Rachel McAdams, you're like, well, yeah, of course they want to bone each other. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Jake Gyllenhaal has to work to make himself look strange.
Ah, true.
Whereas Benedict Cumberbatch has a bit of a strange thing about him.
He's got an interesting face.
So it feels aptly named for him.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I saw Benedict Cumberbatch. I had to comprehend his head.
And also the hair, it all fits better.
Yeah, there's just some, again, there's some
likeness.
There's an uncanny thing that Marvel's casting people are able to nail down, which thus far, for the most part, has been pretty on point.
But then one might argue Jake Gyllenhaal looks nothing like Quentin Beck from the comics either.
True. Well, and that comes into okay, how are they also tweaking the interpretations and marrying them to people?
Well, I mean, this was a fun list, man. I didn't know. I said 80% of these I didn't know. If you're going out of 10, 80% I did not know. I'm island you too. Yeah. 8. Guys, which one would you have been most fascinated to have checked out, or which one do you think might have actually outdone the performer who was cast? Leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe, click that notification bell. Thank you to ScreenRant. Make sure to subscribe to them. Last but not least, Maria Hammond. The last couple shout-outs we've given you, I know we've leaned a little bit more into the jokey, written side. I wanted to just be here today to tell you, I've only known you for a short while now, 2 or 3 months at this point. Getting to know you has just been an absolute delight. You are so, there's so much rich character in the way you talk with me. You're so expressive. There's so much compassion behind the way you express yourself. Josh is lucky to have you as a mom. I think that you have been someone who's been undeniably sweet this entire time. I love the extra mile you go to with checking out content of ours that a lot of people don't actually check out, and supporting us on other platforms as well if we do other collabs. I'm very happy to know you, very happy to have you here, and I know the last time we shouted you out, you're like, I just pledged this amount to show support. You didn't even want to shout out. So I figured I'd just take time today to say thank you, and keep being yourself, because as much cynicism as you say you have, you project nothing but positivity our way. Thank you.